Hello, and welcome to Recovery Through Christ. So glad that you're joining us, and I hope that you'll continue watching the video through its entirety. If you want to know more about our Recovery Through Christ program, feel free to check out our website at www.recoverythroughchrist.org or send us an email at support@recoverythroughchrist.org. So if you have any questions, if anything that you want to know, if you want to know more about some of our workshops that we had throughout the year, send us an email. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like the videos. I hope that you do like them. Today, as we continue in our series, we're going to go through the second preparation lesson. And this one's going to be talking about the pain of our past. Because a lot of times, whenever we think about pain is one of the main issues that come up in our life that keep us stuck in this vicious cycle, whether it's in our addictions or whether it's in abuse or usage of drugs or whether it's just in the cycle in our life controlling issues. But I'm glad that you're watching the video today, and I hope that it'll do you some good. I don't think there's any of us who like pain. Well, maybe a few people who do like pain, but I think for the majority of us, pain's not one of our best friends. And we learn from a young age that we don't want to be around pain. I think that we're always told, don't touch the stove because it's hot. And a lot of people will use the kids will go up there and they'll touch the stove anyway. They'll find out that it's hot and they won't mess with it again. But what do you think about things that are unexpected? Maybe you go out into a field or go out into your backyard and you're walking around as a kid without any shoes on, and you step over a yellow jacket nest. The next thing you know, they're chasing you. Of course, you don't know what's going on because you've never seen a yellow jacket, yet alone a nest before, and then they start stinging you. Well, of course, anytime after that point, the next time you see a yellow jacket, even if you've made it matter, stepped on its nest, it doesn't matter, you're going to run. The same goes for a bee or a wasp or anything else, or a spider if one has ever bitten you. If you see one, you're going to run. Why? Because you know that it could hurt, and you don't want to feel the pain. Well, the same goes, I remember riding in a bus whenever I was in grade school, even in middle school. I remember the kids used to play the little game where they'd hold their hand out like this, and you'd have to break the circle. And if you didn't break the circle, they would hit you in the arm. And I remember the first time that was ever pulled on me, the guy leaned over the seat and said, "Hey." He went like that, and of course I was oblivious. And so he hit me. So every time after that, I did my best to break the hole or break the circle, and every time that I didn't, I would go ahead and I would flinch. Why? Because I knew my arm was fixing to be hurting. What about whenever you go into the doctor's office for a shot? I don't think I know many kids. I don't know too many adults who still like getting shots. You kind of dread it because you know, well, it's going to hurt. This is the same reaction that takes place in the mind of an addict, an individual who struggles with addiction. The painful feelings, the negative thoughts cause us to want to move to a place without pain. But unfortunately, the pain that most of us feel as we grow into our adulthood, and even some of us in our childhood or adolescence, the pain that we go through, it's a lot deeper than a bee sting. It's a lot deeper than getting a shot in the arm. The pain that causes most of us to cope in unhealthy ways, it largely begins earlier on in life. And since then, we get used to the dysfunction. It's almost as if we get used to the pain. And it doesn't mean that we enjoy it. We don't enjoy the pain. We don't enjoy the life. It's just hard to imagine anything different. It's hard to imagine anything better. And I want you to think back, if you will, to the Israelites whenever they were in slavery in Egypt. And whenever God told Moses, "I want you to see to it that my people are taken out of slavery." And so Moses went and talked to Pharaoh. And whenever he talked to Pharaoh, he told him, God said, "Let my people go." And Pharaoh told him, "I'm not going to do that." So God brought the plagues upon Egypt, upon Pharaoh. Eventually, yes, he let them go after the death of the firstborn. And one of the firstborn happened to be Pharaoh's son. So in this whole process, we have individuals who are coming to know God because of his promises. Well, now they're fixing to learn God in a little bit of a different way. They're running out of Egypt. They're getting out of slavery, just like God promised. And God also promised to take them to a land that flowed with milk and honey. This beautiful land that would have everything that they needed to be provided for. All they had to do was to go. God said, if there's any adversary there, take care of them. I will be with you. So as they were leaving, of course, they had this big river that was keeping them from completely escaping from Egypt, and God parted the river, the sea, and they all walked through on dry land. And as the Egyptian army came after them, well, it swallowed them all up and killed them. So here Israel is going out. God was taking care of them by allowing them to eat. He gave them manna in the day. He allowed them to be able to have water to drink. He gave them everything that they needed. Their clothes, they always had clothes. They were always taken care of. Anything that they needed, it was provided for. By the day, they were guided by a cloud. At night, they were guided by a pillar of fire. God allowed them to know that he was there. So they get up to the Jordan River, and they're looking across the Jordan at this land, this beautiful land of Canaan that flowed with milk and honey. And all they had to do was go. But instead of going, they decided they were going to send out 12 spies, one spy from each tribe. And so they did. And they sent off, and the spies went into Canaan, and they were there spying out the land for 40 days. In those 40 days, they saw all the spoils of the land, and they saw that, yeah, it is a land that flows with milk and honey. It's beautiful. It has everything that we need. But they came back, and they brought this report that said, it may be what God says, but these people are huge. We can't defeat them. We're like grasshoppers in their sight. How can we take over this land? Well, there were two of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, who reminded the rest of what God had said. He said, this is our land. We can take it. God is with us. But the numbers won out in this case, and so God told them, because you're not going to go in and do what I have told you, for every day that you were in spying out the land, you'll spend a year wandering around in the wilderness. So there's where the 40 years comes from. Well, after that, what happened is the people decided, we need another leader. We need another leader who's not going to take us around and just have us wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. We want to go back to Egypt. We want to go back to slavery. We would rather go back to what we know. And that's how a lot of us are. We know what to expect in slavery. We think about individuals and why they have such a hard time overcoming their life-controlling issue. It's because they know what to expect, living in it, being enslaved by it. Entering into a life of sobriety comes with a lot of change. It comes with its own struggles. It comes with its own challenges. A life of change causes us to have to surrender self. Whenever we think of surrender, it's easy to go back once again to the older cartoons where you see the guy waving a white flag, and it's usually Bugs Bunny trying to get the hunter to leave him alone. But in that, what the white flag and what we see that white flag for is, we're going to be defeated anyway. Give up. That's not God's way of surrender. He doesn't want us to surrender just because he's got the most power, just because he's going to win anyway. He wants us to entrust ourselves to him. You see, the biblical definition of surrender is to entrust. And that's what God wants us to do. He wants us to be able to entrust ourselves to Him, to know that He is going to take care of us, to provide for us, and that every promise that He has given to us is absolutely true. What we have to understand is that it's hard for us to believe God because of the things that have happened in our life. A lot of times the trust that we have is broken. A lot of times we don't believe anything that anyone says because we've been lied to. We've been broken. We've been deceived. So many people can't understand how we become enslaved to our dysfunction, our life controlling issues, and even our addictions. Well, what we have to understand, especially as we go into a church setting or into a spiritual context, whenever people see other individuals who struggle, they don't know that all they're seeing is a symptom. They're seeing the effect of something that's much deeper within. They don't see the problem. All they see is the symptom. Those of us who understand God, those of us who know God, those of us who grew up going to church, know that God doesn't make junk. So what about those people? What's wrong with them? Psalm 139 talks about the knowledge of God and how great of the knowledge it is. It talks about how wonderful He is, how He forms us in the womb, how we are His greatest creation, how each of us is a unique masterpiece fashioned by the hand of God. Psalm 139 and verse 14 says, I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. Verse 15 and 16 continues saying, my frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the depths of the earth. Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were all written the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. And you think about this. A newborn baby, a newborn child, a mother holding the child in her arms. There's nothing more precious. There's nothing more innocent. But yet there are things in this life that come along and that take the innocence away. As sad as it is, it happens. And so individuals don't usually live a life that is conducive with the innocence that we have whenever we're born. Some of the things that can come in and can take our innocence away become the core issues that cause us to cope in ways that are unhealthy. And these ways, what we see, one of the first ones is abuse. Abuse usually is a core issue in addiction and any other life-controlling issue. There's physical, emotional, verbal, sexual abuse. What we see through research is that 1 out of every 3 males and 1 out of every 4 females are abused in one of these ways by age 8. That's devastating numbers. But I want you to see the reality of what's going on all around us. Another core issue that we see is abandonment, and this most often is a core issue in addiction. Abandonment can come through death, through parents who are in military, through divorce, emotional abandonment from preoccupied parents who aren't there to meet the needs of the child. Abandonment can also occur when parents choose to be silent during teachable moments, as they're withholding advice about love and life and intimacy. But the majority of these things don't happen because the intention of the parent is to abandon the child. They're trying to do the best that they can. And a lot of times what happens out of ignorance, They don't know how to do anything better. As a parent myself, I know how that is. There's a lot of things that I don't understand how to teach my child. I do my best to learn, but I still don't get it right all the time. There's a lot of ignorance in me. A lot of things I don't know how to do right. But I do the best that I can with what I've got. And even with that, I know that there are going to be times whenever my children feel like that they've been abandoned. But they haven't. I'm just doing my best. Then there's also another one of the life controlling issues, which is intentional abandonment, neglect. That's whenever the parent knows and intentionally abandons the child. What happens is the abuse, the abandonment, and the neglect lead to this fourth core issue, which is shame. You wonder how shame comes into the picture. Well, I know so many people who feel like they're the ones that are guilty for the abuse, the abandonment, and the neglect in their life. I know a lot of people who are going through this and who feel that they're responsible. Well, guilt is there for us. It's an emotion that tells us that we made a mistake, that we've done something wrong. For the majority of the people who are abused, they don't deserve it. They never did anything wrong. They just feel that way. The guilt allows us to know that we've done something wrong, that we made a mistake, and that's something that we can learn from. We can learn not to make that mistake again. We can learn not to do whatever that was anymore. But what happens is some of us get caught in that guilt. We get stuck in that guilt, and it becomes shame. It becomes toxic. So no longer is it I'm one who's made a mistake. Whenever it turns into shame, now the individual feels that they are the mistake. They are what's wrong. They are the problem. Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 7 says, "For as he thinks within himself, so he is." And unfortunately, there's a lot of individuals who think that they are worthless, useless, junk. And what happens is we tend to spend more time running away from our guilt and our shame and the pain than we do running toward a better way of life. The only way to a better life is determined to make the next right decision in life, to continue to seek truth among the lies, and to keep the lies that keep you from moving forward. Here's the truth about this, okay? We're failures only whenever we settle for something that is less than what is possible through God. We're failures only when we settle for less than what is possible through God. So regardless of what has been done to cause your pain, your struggle, your shame, God can use it for His glory if you'll allow Him to. He can allow us to move toward change if we'll trust in Him enough. And we can find our true selves, which have been hidden for so long. If we can only just stop, if we'll stop defining ourselves by our past experiences. Tomorrow's a new day. New experiences, new opportunities that allow us to bring glory to God and peace to you. I hope this message has been something that you can find useful in your life. I hope that you'll continue joining us for more videos. Thank you.